In this video, I'm going to give you my full honest thoughts on what we know about the Diamond and Pearl remakes so far in terms of graphics, content, and development, and what they mean for the main series and Pokemon as a whole. I'll also be releasing a separate video soon talking about my thoughts on the new Legends game, so make sure to click that subscribe button so you don't miss it, as only about 20% of people who have been watching my videos lately are subscribed to the channel. Without any further ado, let's get into it. Well, the long-awaited Diamond and Pearl remakes have finally been announced. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl will be coming to the Switch in late 2021. Now, everything I just said, I think most of us could have guessed prior to the Pokemon Presents. Diamond and Pearl remakes coming later this year, pretty predictable. But the trailer itself, well, let's just say it came as a shock to many people.
Back to Diamond and Pearl, gang! Sinnoh! Experience the brilliance once more! What the f?
That's Diamond and Pearl! Let's go! Please look good! Oh my gosh, please be good. What? Oh no. This is not gonna go over well. Why?
Oh my god, it's hideous.
I'd be willing to bet that a good 90% of us had a reaction that was somewhat similar to those we just saw. I think it's indisputable that the art direction they chose for the remakes was definitely jarring, and came as a massive surprise to say the least. Apparently, the developers wanted to make this an extraordinarily faithful remake, saying, "The original story has been faithfully reproduced, and the sense of scale in the original towns and the routes has been carefully preserved." This is apparently why we have such strange-looking characters, for instance. It seems they took the 2D games and literally just tried to translate them into a more 3D experience for the Switch, so the characters have retained their height and everything on the overworld. Now, I'll be the first to admit I'm not a fan of the characters themselves, especially not the protagonists. They could definitely use some work. I've seen several examples online where people have issued simple fixes, usually adding some cell shading or even just straight up outlines, and it makes the characters look 10 times better. I think, or at least I'm hoping, that it might just be a case of these games being early in development. From the time this trailer was probably created, there's likely somewhere around 10 months before release. After all, this is actually the earliest that main series remakes have ever been announced, never mind gameplay being shown, so I'm keeping that in consideration. But despite all this, I don't think that any of us can deny that the overworld and region itself are looking pretty good so far, especially if you consider the fact that they're just intended to be faithful remasters of the world we experienced on the DS. I find myself unable to be mad if the remakes do truly feel reminiscent of when I played the originals, as that is their intended purpose after all. There have been some criticisms and minor gripes that the shading is a bit too dark in some areas and whatnot, but in the end I do think that they are very faithful and capture the 2D Sinnoh essence quite well, especially locations like the Oreburgh City mining area, Snowpoint City, the Valley Windworks area looks great, and Lake Verity has some of the best looking water I've ever seen in a Pokemon game. As for the battle sequences themselves, they are definitely hampered by the poor quality character models, but otherwise they do look quite a lot like the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee battle sequences. With that being said, the battle backgrounds themselves are looking quite great, especially compared to a lot of vacant voids that were found in Sword and Shield, and in some shots you can even see Mount Coronet in the background, which is a nice touch for sure. The Pokemon models are the standard models we've been seeing for quite a few years now, and although that's not fantastic, it does make sense within the context of the game being a faithful remake and whatnot. Their textures really remind me of if you've ever played Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon on the Citra emulator in full HD with outlines off, similar to my True Power Versus series here on YouTube if you're familiar with that. I've always thought Citra looked quite good, so I'm not going to complain about these models as a stylistic remake choice, but a bit of cel shading would definitely not be a bad thing. I think there's one point that I really do wish to drive home here, and that's regarding remakes that we've had in the past. In generations gone by, the remakes have always looked like whatever new mainline games are out at that moment. Fire Red and Leaf Green looked like Ruby and Sapphire. Heart Gold and Soul Silver looked like Diamond and Pearl. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire looked like X and Y. I think part of the reason these upcoming remakes have been so jarring is that they do break this trend. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl do not look like Sword and Shield. But honestly, and I'm sure many of you will agree here, I think that's a good thing. I did not like the way Sword and Shield looked, and it seemed like the Pokemon Company was in way over their heads. These graphics, while different and unexpected, are definitely faithful remasters similar to the Link's Awakening remake. Yes, it is a different artistic style, but I don't think they should be written off solely on that basis. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire also had a kind of chibi style, but they looked fine and were enjoyable games despite lacking some key features, of course. A prime example of this I feel would be the Let's Go games. The graphics, though more childlike and chibi in nature, and despite the absolutely ruthless response of the fanbase upon first seeing them, are widely heralded as being some of the best looking Pokemon games to date that really capture Pokemon's essence, and that we really got used to as we actually played them. But again, just like in this case, graphics aren't everything. The Let's Go games were quite disgustingly lacking in content and features, and so they're still considered to be bad Pokemon games overall. Regarding these new remakes and their graphics, I do want to reiterate one thing that I've always said. Pokemon games have never been particularly known for their graphics. When they're great, it's a fantastic thing, but the games are definitely more so about the concept of Pokemon itself, the content, and the features. The only reason most of us got so hooked on the graphics in Sword and Shield is because the so-called updated graphics and high-quality animations were used as the excuse for cut features and Pokemon. If this game fixes the character models, uses the next however many months of development wisely, is faithful to the originals, and has exceptional content and features, well, are we really going to get stuck on the art style that we'll likely get used to upon playing it? Now this is the crux of the whole debate surrounding these remakes. The art style is something different, that's for sure. And since these games are made by a different developer that isn't busy with making other Pokemon games as well, which Game Freak usually was, and they're going to choose an art style that is objectively much easier to make than what might have been expected, then they must, and I repeat, must have the content and features needed to make them good games. There is no excuse. The good news is the remakes do indeed appear to be faithful to the originals in terms of features, at least from what we've seen so far. Looking at one of the shots from Jubilife City, for instance, we can see that just outside of the Jubilife TV building, there is one of the clowns who promotes the Poketch. And while we don't see any actual use of the Poketch aside from the beginning of the trailer showing the originals with the Poketch being used, he is one of the clowns you have to get a coupon from to get the Poketch in the first place, so that's a pretty good indication that it will indeed be featured. In addition to the fact that Lucas appears to have it in Orberg, and the protagonists also have a Poketch-like device in both their official artworks. Also, the screen just above the clown on the building appears to be portraying a Pokemon Super Contest, which was definitely a fan favorite feature for many in the originals. Aside from that, we also had confirmation that the Underground will indeed be returning, which was a pretty big worry for a lot of fans that they'd exclude it. Since the game is also confirmed to have 2 to 4 player multiplayer, this hopefully also means the return of secret bases and general multiplayer within the Underground too. It also appears as though the Union Club is back, which is definitely a classic multiplayer functionality feature that I would still maintain is better than things like the YCOM and is more similar to the beloved PSS from X and Y. The big worry I sense among a lot of Pokemon fans though is that these remakes will be simply graphical remasters with no extra content or features beyond what Diamond and Pearl had, and that an experience like that won't be worth a full $60 price tag, which I'd wholeheartedly agree with. Great remakes of the past, for instance, really expanded upon and enhanced the original games, such as the Sevi Islands, the Johto Safari Zone and following Pokemon, the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire Dex Nav, Soaring Feature, new Mega Evolutions, Battle Resort, etc. So the big question here is, will Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl include the enhancements given to the originals by Pokemon Platinum, and will it go beyond that with extra content as we might expect? Well, there are a few beacons of hope here that not a lot of people noticed. First, in a very brief panning glimpse of Floroma Town, there is a blonde woman standing outside one of the houses. And what's so special about her, you might ask? Well, she wasn't in the original Diamond and Pearl. In fact, she was only in Platinum. She was the one who gives the player the Gracidia flower, which is the item used to transform Landform Shaman into Skyform. In order to obtain it, you also have to have the event Shaman in your party, so this might indicate that the legendary and mythical events that we know and love, such as the Flower Paradise Shaman encounter, Full Moon Island with Cresselia, New Moon Island with Darkrai, and possibly even the Distortion World with Giratina might make an appearance in these games as well, since she is a character from Platinum only after all, and gives us an item that creates a Platinum only Pokemon form too. Secondly, there has been a lot of confusion about what Pokemon will be in the game. A lot of people were initially fearing it would be like Let's Go's Kanto only decks where only Sinnoh Pokemon were featured. In the overview trailer, the narrator says, "You can enjoy a grand adventure together with all the Pokemon from Pokemon Diamond version and Pokemon Pearl version." This can be interpreted a bunch of ways. The original Sinnoh regional decks, for instance, only featured 151 Pokemon, but the national decks included 493, and those were technically all the Pokemon from Diamond and Pearl. It seems that we can rule out it just being Sinnoh Pokemon because there is a Geodude in the gameplay trailer. We can also rule out just the Diamond and Pearl Sinnoh decks because Porygon Z is featured in the trailer as well, which was only part of the expanded Pokemon Platinum Sinnoh Pokédex, showing yet another piece of evidence from the Platinum enhancements. If the games have a ton of content, at a minimum I want to see the full Sinnoh national decks of 493 Pokemon in these games, given that they're just remakes. But I'll be discussing more about that in a future video since I have a lot of thoughts regarding that. Finally, there's the fact that, as revealed by PokeShopper, the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl official figurine campaign promotion includes Mega Lucario and Mega Charizard X. And of course, Megas were not included in the original 4th gen games, not even Platinum. This isn't 100% confirmation, but it does raise a lot of suspicion and hope, especially given that all recent remakes and remasters such as ORAS and Let's Go did indeed include Megas. So in a sense, it would be strange if they weren't included now. This would definitely be a valuable piece of extra content and a feature that is much wanted by fans overall. The last thing I want to talk about briefly when it comes to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is the actual developer of these games. It is not Game Freak, and this was quite shocking to almost everyone. For the first time, a main series game has been outsourced to another company, Ilka in this specific case, with Masuda, the director of the original Diamond and Pearl, merely helping them out. This is something that a lot of us fans have wanted to happen for a long time, and it's something I'm going to talk about more in the future, but overall, I think this is a positive development as it solves one of the major issues I've been pointing out lately, that Game Freak has not had enough time nor have they put enough resources into their games. Now, they can simply outsource the remakes and focus entirely on fresh, new, and quality releases for new generations and things like the new Legends game, which I'll be sharing my thoughts on very soon, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. The fact that we're getting 2 major releases probably within 6 months of each other is another thing I'm factoring in terms of my context for the thoughts around these games, as there's a lot to consider there. But when it comes to these remakes, what about things like the Battle Frontier and the Versus Recorder from Platinum? How many Pokemon will be in the games? What will become of the competitive metagame? Will the official format be staying with Sword and Shield? Will there be additional story elements like past remakes have had? Will there be gym leader rematches? There are so many unanswered questions I have, but my overall feeling about these remakes is, well, the art style is not my absolute favorite and they need a lot of polish. But it is early in development, and if the content is there and it allows Game Freak to make amazing games in the future, I'm all for them. I have no definitive opinion one way or the other, as I just need to see more before I make a definite judgment. Until I get answers, I'm going to say that I'm very cautiously optimistic about these remakes just from what we've discussed today. Well, those are my thoughts. Make sure to let me know how you're feeling about them in the comments, leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time for another Pokemon video.